Hello and welcome to our Fatmap product session. I'm Emily, I'm based out of Squamish, Canada, and I head up our community programs here at Fatmap. Today, I'm going to share an overview of our product, share some insights into Fatmap, and dig a little bit deeper into some of our features with some live demos. Here's an agenda of what you can expect today. We'll start off with our mapping, with our base maps, have a look at our terrain tools, look at the content side of things, finding and planning routes in Fatmap, share some fun features and tips, some of which you may not already know, and then we're going to dig into our premium version, so Fatmap Explore. I'd encourage you to get out your phone or open another window on your computer screen and test out each feature for yourself as we go along. First things first, base maps. This slide shows you our summer imagery at Fatmap. On the left-hand side, you can see the summer imagery in the app, and on the right-hand side on the web. In a nutshell, our maps are built using data from satellite companies. We use elevation data to make what's called a digital elevation model, and we take imagery from satellite companies, whether it's summer or winter imagery. This data is then rendered to create the 3D model that you see in Fatmap today. Here's a sneak peek at the winter imagery in Fatmap, again on the left in the app and on the right in the web. How accurate is this data? We build an elevation grid with a resolution of between 1 and 10 meters, with the vast majority around 5 meters or better. So this means that we map the height of the ground surface every 5 meters. The result is an extremely high resolution model, between 10 and 30 times the resolution of most mainstream 3D maps available today. And our imagery, so that varies between 25 centimeters and 1 meter, meaning that a single pixel that you see here covers 25 centimeters to 1 meters on the ground. Most maps use color imagery. We use monochrome imagery in some of our winter maps. This often provides better clarity and detail in the snow texture, creating some of the awesome maps that you see today in the Fatmap product. Next up, topographic maps. We have a global topographic map, which is available for all Fatmap users, both in the app and on the web platform. And we also have country-specific topographic maps available for Explore members in select countries. What you see here is a topographic map in Scotland over at Ben Nevis, and this is the UK OS maps. Terrain layers. So I'm going to touch on our terrain layers briefly with some displays in a slideshow, and then I'm going to dig into it in a little bit more detail in a demo. On the left-hand side, you can see the aspect layer in the application, and on the right-hand side, you can see the gradient layer in the web. Again, I'll dig into this in a little bit more detail in a minute. On the left-hand side here, you can see the avalanche layer in the app, and on the right, the elevation layer in the web. And now let's take you to a quick demo. You'll always get a nice quote whilst Fatmap is loading on the webs. We're going to take a little overview into Whistler Blackcomb here. So we are currently on the Blackcomb side. You can see the ski runs over here. And what we're going to focus on is this little bit of slack country right around here. I'm going to close this up to give us a better view and zoom in over here. On the web, open up this down the side. We can stay in winter for this purpose of this today and click on the overlays. One of my favorite overlays is the gradient overlay. So what this does is it shows you the slope angle of the terrain. So here you can see in the color bands, you can instantly tell just how steep a particular area of terrain here is. You can see the key going from 0 right up to 90 degrees. And where it really gets interesting is it, over 30, 35 degrees here, and you can see the colors changing. Useful to see if you're plotting a route and see how steep it is, whether it's for summer activities or for backcountry as well, if you're taking into account the avalanche risk for that day or for that week. The avalanche layer really touches on the gradient that I've just shown you here, and it shows you using colors where avalanches are more likely to occur, taking into account the gradient, so the slope angle of that piece of terrain. One of my other favorite layers here is the aspect layer. So as you can see, this side of the Blackcomb Glacier is south facing, and this side is mostly north facing. If we zoom out, you can see the aspect from lots of different terrain all around the Whistler Blackcomb area. Again, really useful for winter sports planning, taking into account the avalanche risk for that day. You might want to avoid certain slopes, for example, that have been baked in the sun all day. And useful in the summer if you wanted to head to those slopes that might be in the sunshine as well. Next up, we have the distance layer, a really good way to tell quickly an estimated distance between certain locations. You can see as you zoom out, the grid changes to bigger locations, bigger amounts, sorry, so 20 kilometers. And as you zoom in, it gets more and more accurate. Elevation layer, this shows using colors and also elevation bands as the slope gets higher and higher in elevation. Flats. Flats layer is actually a really great one, particularly in summer. It has a lot of use cases. If you're wanting to pitch a tent, for example, you might want a piece of flat ground to pitch that tent on. Also in summer and winter, useful for search and rescue helicopters to have a flat area to land a helicopter on. Really useful if you are a snowboarder, perhaps, and you're skiing in resort and you want to avoid those runouts where you're going to have to push. You can see where those flat areas are and try to avoid them before it happens. So those are the overlays in a nutshell. What sits down here in the Explore is, which is our premium level of Fatmap, is the custom terrain overlay. This is really, really great. So you can instantly see what areas you might want to head to or what areas you might want to avoid. So say, for example, it's winter, you know where the freezing level's at. You really want to avoid anywhere below this freezing level. Say it's at 1500 for this case today. You also know there's a decently high avalanche risk. So you want to avoid any slopes over 35 degrees. And you really want to avoid those south-facing slopes. Here you can see I've selected, we'll do it the other way around, sorry. We will show where we want to ski rather than where we don't want to ski. So what I've done here is selected the areas that we do want to ski in. So it's the gradient under 35 degrees, the elevation over 1500 meters, and avoiding south-facing slopes. Next up, finding and planning routes. So a little look at content at Fatmap. On the left-hand side, you can see in the app, looking at different routes, we've got Ben Nevis over here. And on the right-hand side, you can see the web product looking at different routes again. I'm going to take you back into a demo on Fatmap so we can dig a little bit more into filtering and locating the kind of content that you want to see today. Here on the left-hand side, let's pop us over into summer imagery. And I'm going to zoom out a little bit to show us the area of Whistler Blackcomb and surrounding areas too. Today, I'd like to see hiking routes. So I'm going to turn that on and filter, select Show Hiking. What appears now on the map are all the hiking routes that have been created in Fatmap in this area. A top tip over here is the community content. Currently, you can see community content turned on, which means that the routes show any user that's ever created a route. If you turn this off, it'll only show you Fatmap Select content. And what is Fatmap Select content? So this is routes and guidebooks in Fatmap that are trusted, vetted, and they're created often by our content team or by local experts. So you know that those routes and that information is pretty accurate. So for example, if we head over to one of these, you can see there's 7 Fatmap Select routes within 5 kilometers of this area. Remember, we're looking at hiking routes here. So I'm going to take us over to the Lost Lake Nature Trail, a short one over in Whistler, but a beautiful one over to the Lost Lake. You can see here the content, some photos created by Harriet Parnas, a description here, estimated time, longer description, and some key information like exposure, remoteness, and characteristics, as well as the time of year that you can hike this. It also shows you some stats across the bottom here, really useful for a quick overview of your route. So that is finding routes in Fatmap. Again, if you want to filter, you can click when you're showing hiking. You can also look for different levels here. So perhaps we only want to show easy and moderate. I'm going to guess that that one comes up again. Yes, the Lost Lake Nature Trail, brilliant. And we can turn community content up, and there it is again. You can also select as many different activities as you want. So perhaps you don't want hiking today, but I want road biking and mountain biking. And again, they'll appear. You can see them here on Fatmap. That's a nutshell of routes on Fatmap, both select and community content. Let's dig a little bit deeper into guidebooks on Fatmap. So a guidebook is a curated selection of routes under a certain topic. Again, we can filter over here rather than showing all types. Let's go for hiking again. And it's going to show the areas around my location. You can also search for different locations here. So as we're in Whistler, let's search again around the Whistler area for hiking. And then we can click on these different routes. Have a look at the easy hikes in the beautiful Cedar Sky corridor. With a guidebook, you can see these waypoints and it'll show you the different routes. So you can either click into the route via the waypoint, or you can scroll down over here and you can click into the route via the route card on the side here. Let's have a look at the Four Lakes loops in Squamish, one of my faves. Again, the information over here. And if you want to go back to the overall guidebook, you can click out and it takes you back into the guidebook. And it's similar on the web as well. All right, so now we're back in the slideshow. We're going to have a look at the profile of a route. So I encourage you to pull out your phones and find and select a route that you would like to see the profile of. Swipe up on the route information panel at the bottom of the screen. Scroll down and you'll see an elevation profile, just like this. You can tap on it to view the elevation profile on the map page. And you can actually drag this scrubber along to show you the distance from the start, the elevation, the gradient at that point. And you'll also see this little red circle here that's visible on the map that corresponds to the point on the elevation profile. And you can also do this on web. Looking at creating content in Fatmap, so how to draw routes and route drawing options. You can draw a route on the web, which I'll show you in just a minute here on fatmap.com. You can also create a route now in the app. This little screen here shows you how this is done, a little video of creating a route within the app. And you can also import GPX files. So let's head on over to our map here. We're looking at Squamish again. And let's start as if we're going to create a hiking route. So you click on this little pen button down here on the right-hand side. Choose your activity type. Today we're going to go for a hike. You could drop GPX files if you have them in here. Today we're going to draw a route. Make sure that this snap to function is on. What it does is it snaps to existing routes that are already appearing on the map here. So the base trail here that you could see, it ensures that it's nice and tidy for the route. You can also click on this information button here and it gives you some little tips like finishing your lines, how to delete or move points, for example. Right, so for today, let's head on to the car park of the Chief. We're going to start at the trailhead over here. I click to start. I can click along the points along the trail, and because Snap 2 is on, it snaps to those points, which is pretty incredible. Today we're just gonna head up here to this viewpoint at First Peak, as you can see on the top of the Chief. And as we want all of our routes to be done in completion and out and back, we will then continue down the trail to finish up with our route here. All the way back to the start. Double click to finish, save and continue. I'm going to give my route a title. Look up First Peak Chief. You give it a one-line summary. Again, we've got information over here, so you can have a little look and see exactly what we're looking for, including some photos as a must, adding your difficulty rating. Essentially, you want to complete all of this information as much as you can from the drop down here. Descriptions, details, so what kind of characteristics it might be. This is a dog-friendly route, for example. There are water features, summit hike, all these kind of things that you might want to tick along. Hazards along the way, remoteness, so how remote is it in case of injury, for example. Click on these. Exposure, what's the exposure like here? Typical season that you could hike this. And you can also add directions. And what you want to do is you can either save it privately or you can save and publish publicly on Fatmap. And you can always save and come back to it later as well. For today, I'm going to cancel this for now, but that is how to create a route on Fatmap. Back to the slideshow. Here's information. This just shows you a little overview of planning the route like we just did here. This is a trail one, for example. And on the left-hand side, the overall route as if you planned it within the app. Next up, tracking your adventures. You can also track your adventures within the Fatmap app itself. This little video is showing you how to do that within the product. You can also sync your devices. So for example, your Strava account, Sunto, or your Garmin device, and this can track and record for you and sync directly with your Fatmap account. Personally, I've synced my Fatmap account with my Sunto watch, so I can easily track, record, and share my adventures. It sends it straight to my Fatmap account, and then I can edit them afterwards if need be. Finding, saving, and navigating to POIs on Fatmap, so points of interest. I've got a little example here of what our POIs currently include, so you can check them here, and how to find, save, and navigate to them. So on the Fatmap app, head to the Map tab, the first tab, and move around to find the POI or use the search bar to find one. Tap on it, and it'll reveal its GPS coordinates and its elevation, as you can see here. After tapping on the POI, a pop-up screen will appear, and then you can choose to do lots of things with it. So for example, you can navigate to it with Route 2, you can save the POI and give it your own custom title, you can share it, you can view it in 3D view, 360 view, I'll show you that in a little while, and you can also focus in on the location. That's POIs on Fatmap. One final piece of content here, a little tidbit. So embeds on Fatmap. What you can do is you can embed either a route or a guidebook to your website or directly to your blog. This is an example of one done by one of our ambassadors. And you can also change the embed so you can choose the size you want it to appear on your website by changing the width and the height. I'm going to show you a little demo of how you can do this over in the product as well. This is on the web. So let's go to show all kinds of routes here. Let's click on, these are showing my adventures. Let's go and have a little look to see lots of other people's adventures as well. Let's pop us back into summer mode. And for example, Sea to Summit Trail, a popular one here in Squamish. I'm looking to embed this on my website. What I would do is I click the share button, click this embed button right here, and copy this information, this snippet, and add that to your website, much like you would embed a YouTube video. And that's how you embed a route onto your website. Same for guidebooks as well. And this is what it would end up looking like afterwards. Moving on, the part you've all been waiting for, fun features and tips. I bet there's a few in here that you might not know. The first one I'm going to show you is a fly-through. So let's actually go straight to the web product, and I'll show you what a fly-through looks like on Fatmap. We're going to get a lovely quote as it's starting over here again. And it's going to take us over to the UK, over to Scotland. You click on this plane button, either in the web or within the app. And what it does is it shows us the overview of the route. You can see the statistics along the bottom here. And it's going to take us on a fly-through bird's eye view of this route flying across the trail as if we were there in real life. Pretty amazing as we reach the summit here. And we can also stop the fly through and it'll refocus for us. Now let's have a look at one of my favorite features, the hiking distance layer. Taking us over to Grouse Mountain in Vancouver, and we're at the top of the gondola up here. We'd head over into overlays on Fatmap, turn on the hiking distance layer, put the waypoint where we want to start our hike. So let's say the top of the gondola over here. And say, for example, we want to do roughly a 1 hour hike today. We're going short. What this shows us is a distance of where we can hike roughly in that given time, taking into account the elevation, the gradient, and the terrain around us. It also shows you when sunset is, so pretty important if you're going for a bit of a longer hike and you want to know how far you can get there and back in, for example. So sunset today is in 7 hours and 12 minutes here in BC. Pretty amazing layer. Fun fact, this was actually built by one of our engineers during a hackathon. Okay, back to the slideshow. How do you view an area in 3D with a 360 view? Grab your phones, drop a waypoint by pressing and holding on the map where you'd like to place the waypoint. Once the waypoint is placed, tap the 3D view button. You might have to scroll a little bit along to one of the sides to view this. Then you get a waypoint card and you can go into first person view mode. Move your phone around in the sky above you and you can view the area of the map around you in 360 degrees. When you're finished, just tap this X button over here to return to the map. And that's the 360 view feature. Another one of our features is that you can search for a location with GPS coordinates. So simply copy and paste the GPS coordinates in the search bar, and then it'll pop up over here and drop a waypoint from where they are. You can copy these search coordinates from anywhere. Another fun fact, the terrain exaggeration toggle. So this can be found over in the terrain tools at the bottom here. It says enhance hills in flat regions. What does this do? This changes the appearance of the map to make mellow terrain and rolling hills clearer. So the camera angle and vertical scaling of the terrain surface is adjusted, but nothing in the underlying map data is changed. So the heights on the map and in your route stats remain the same, whether the toggle is on or off. And finally, today we're going to touch on Fatmap Explore, our premium version of Fatmap. Here's a list of some of the features that you find in Fatmap Explore, from offline map downloads to in-app route planning, GPX files that you can send straight to your Sunto or Garmin device, topographic maps like we touched on earlier today, as well as the custom terrain tool with terrain analysis layers, and live snow and resort information. Our community program members have access to Fatmap Explore, and they also have vouchers to share with their family, their friends, their clients, and their followers. Go further with Fatmap Explore today. And to wrap up, Fatmap lets you find and plan your route, navigate along the way, and record your adventures to share with your family, friends, and the Fatmap community. You can follow trails recommended by mountain guides and tap into the local knowledge of the Fatmap community. You can feel confident in your decision-making when out in the mountains with our detailed terrain overlays and topographic maps, which I showed you earlier, and they're also available to download for offline use. You always have a backup plan in your pocket. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you found it useful. Feel free to ask any questions in the comments, and we'll do our best to answer you. Also, about.fatmap.com has a very useful website. We have an FAQ section on there, so you can type in any of your questions and it'll pop up information revealing different answers there. We hope you enjoyed today. Thank you.